Hello friends, how are you today? I hope you are doing well. I'm going to adjust this light again. I think that when my husband comes in, because he takes Zoom calls in here, there we go. I think he adjusts the light so I think it hurts his eyes. Hello, it is Monday, December 20th, and I am stamped with Tia Woodward here, and I have I'm going to adjust this camera just a little bit. I want to share some thank you cards with you today. So the last few weeks we've looked at treat bags and we've looked at gift card holders, and of course we've been making Christmas cards for months. And now it's kind of time to start preparing for what happens after all of that, and that would be the thank you cards. So I'm going to show you a couple of different levels of doing some Christmas cards today. I did jump on, and everything that I'm showing you in this demonstration as of half an hour ago, everything was still available. I just realized that if I don't close down my computer here, you're going to hear every little noise, and I want to make sure you don't. So thought I was all ready, but realized I'm not. Here we go. I've just silenced it. There we go. Now nothing should go wrong. So today what I'm going to use is I'm going to use the Heartfelt Wishes, which you've seen me use several times. And I'm going to use the Merry Snowflakes, but I'm going to use them in a slightly different way than what you've seen me do before. And I'll show you all of that in a minute. And I'm going to show you something from like the very most basic thank you card to a couple of stepped up thank you cards. So I'm going to try to show you 3 in the next hour. Before I do, just want to let you know that we have the new mini catalog, the January through June mini catalog starts on January 4th, and Celebration starts at the same time. And Celebration is where you earn free products based on your purchases either through this catalog or through the annual catalog, the product that's offered year-round. With qualifying purchases of increments of $50, you get all kinds of fun stuff. There's designer series papers, and some really nice designer series papers, and there's some beautiful stamp sets in here. So just want to let you know that's coming up. If you are interested in having a party or a workshop of some sort, please let me know. I would love to set something up for you. And during Celebration you get even more goodies, so that's a good time to do it. But if that time doesn't work for you, I can certainly set up something outside of the January through February Celebration time period. So let me know if you're interested. I would absolutely love to have a party with you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera down. Wait, seems like there was something else I was supposed to tell you. There is a new, I wish I could remember the name of it. There's a new paper pumpkin that's out, and it's Valentine oriented. So be sure to check my Facebook page, and I will post that 3 or 4 times between now and January 10th is when you have to register to receive that. I've ordered it. I am going to be assembling it online. I would love if some other people had it as well and we were able to do it at the same time. But if not, at least I will be able to assemble it and show it to you. All right? I am going to turn my camera down. And that wasn't fun. And turn it around. And get it all nice and nestled in the brackets here. All right. So here's the 2 stamp sets that I told you that we were going to use today. We're going to use Heartfelt Wishes, and we're going to use Merry Snowflakes. I'm using white cardstock for the majority of everything. I do have a couple of pieces of, I have one piece of Pool Party and one piece of Balmy Blue, and it's only because once I use the blending brushes, I'm not sure which one is going to be most predominant, which one's going to look better, so I came prepared to be able to do whatever I needed to do. All right, but everything else is white, and this is going to be so much fun. I can't wait to show you. Okay, so I will start by setting this aside. Oh, and I wanted to let you know with the thank you cards, if this isn't what you had in mind, this much gratitude or sending love, you could use any thank you. One of the thank you sets that is in the annual catalog is this Ornate Thanks. This didn't have the vibe that I wanted for these winter holiday thank you cards, but it might be the vibe you like. So I want to let you know I checked and this is still available as well. Okay, set all of this aside. Here's the December host code. It's good the entire month of December. And I was too organized. I was looking around for my cardstock. So I'm going to start with a 4 1/4 by 11 inch piece of cardstock. I am watching my screen for any comments. It's scored at 5 1/2, and we're going to go ahead and burnish that. Pull up my Stampin' Pearson mat and my bone folder. So it was pre-scored, but it doesn't look like it was exact. So I'm going to line that up and get that straightened out. There we go. So there. So here I've used our heavyweight or thick basic white cardstock. This is a good standalone cardstock. If you wanted to add no other layers to this, this is the cardstock to use. Our other basic white cardstock is thinner, and when you fold it, you're going to get a very different feel. It's in a pinch you could make it work, but it's not what I recommend. I use the lighter weight basic white for layering on top, but I do not use it as the basic card by itself. All right, so a basic card could be, and I just stuck my thumb right in my ink. It's all right, I'll grab my chamois and wipe it off. I just cleaned this chamois, it's all ready to go. Do you have one of these chamois? You just get them wet and you wipe off your stamps with them as you go, and it keeps everything nice and clean. I love mine. Love, love, love it. Okay, so for this card, I'm not going to add any layers. I'm just going to do a very basic stamp. But I am going to use my Stamparatus because instead of just plain ink, we're going to put a clear ink on top of it. So I've got my folded card. It's folded the right direction. I'm using my magnets. I've got mine wrapped in black duct tape. Just makes it easier for me to pick them up. They're so strong. Excuse me. Then I have my stamp is already preset, and I've picked Much Gratitude. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp this in Balmy Blue, and then I'm going to clean off my, actually I shouldn't have had it mounted on this, I should have had it mounted on this. And then we're going to go over it with Versamark and then use clear embossing powder. So I've got that set about, it's a little bit, I'm eyeballing this, but this looks pretty centered to me and pretty level on the card. So I'm going to close this. It's going to pick it up. I just realized I don't actually need this. Well, I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot. So I'm applying my Balmy Blue. I'm going to apply one more layer just to intensify the ink color. That did a nice job, didn't it? Then I'm going to use my chamois to clean off my stamp. I'm not going to move my stamp. I'm going to leave it exactly where it's at. I am going to now apply the Versamark ink, and the Versamark is the clear ink that allows for heat embossing powder to stick. So I'm going to apply that to my stamp, and I'm going to go over this with clear embossing powder. So there is the Versamark. Closing my balmy blue. I have a scrap piece of paper here that I will use for, actually I don't need that, I just need the paper. And then I have the clear Stampin' Emboss powder. So I just take this off, scatter my white powder, or it looks white, it's going to turn clear. I'm pretty generous when I apply. And I'm knocking off the excess, and I'm going to pour it right back into its container. Then I'm going to get I don't currently have the Stampin' Up! Embossing tool. It is on my Christmas list. But I do have another embossing tool, so that's the one that I'm going to use. I'm going to open up the card, and I'm going to heat from the back, and then I'm going to heat from the front. I did pre-warm up my tool prior to this video starting, and this is, not sure if you can see that it's turning from kind of a powder to see the shine. And we're done with that. Double checking to make sure. Pretty sure that's all done. You don't want to apply the heat any longer than necessary because it can warp your paper. So now we have the absolute most basic of thank you cards right here that just says much gratitude. You could turn this into more of a winter card by adding some snowflakes or something to it. This did warp just a little bit. You can straighten it out with your bone folder. I like to do this with layers. I very seldom ever work in the single layers of cardstock, but you now have a basic card that you can send to somebody that gave you a gift. So next, I'm going to set that right here. And I hope you were able to see that embossed raised layer. I'm feeling a little bit of grain, but I think it's around it. I don't think it's on it because it's all definitely shiny. Okay. So that's the absolutely most basic method. Then I'm going to clean that Versamark ink off of my stamp, and I'm going to show you another one. And this one is a wee bit fancier. I'm going to set this aside for a minute. I don't want to set that. There we go. So our next card there we are. This one we're going to stamp on another layer that's going to be applied to the front. Like so. Actually, is that the right one? Yep. Nope. This is the right one. There we go. So here we've got our card base, and here's the part that we're actually going to decorate, and then we're going to raise this up on dimensionals on the front. I'm going to go ahead and just burnish this because I have a tendency to do that at the beginning of every video. Really hope I'm live. I don't see that anybody is here, but it says I'm live, so I'm going with it. And everybody, I know it's a very busy time right now. People can catch the video later, but I wanted to be consistent and stay with the time that everybody's now getting used to me being here. Okay, this one, I wanted to decorate more. I wanted to do some blending brushes, and I wanted to do some snowflakes. So I am going to use this method where I take a piece of tape. This is the Post-it tape, and I'm going to create an uneven tear down the center, and I'm going to create an area that looks kind of fluid, and I'm going to make it a little bit big because I'm using some bigger snowflake stamps. And I want to be careful that I don't do an exact mirror of this looking like I just brought this down, so I want to move it over a little bit or move it this way a little bit. And I want to leave room for my much gratitude or sending love down here. So let's see. Something about like such. All right. But what's fun that we're going to do this time is we're going to do some emboss resist or ink resist. So I'm going to stamp with the Versamark so it'll be clear. I'm going to put clear embossing powder on top of it. I'm going to heat it, and so it'll still be clear, but then I'm going to use the blending brushes to apply ink around it. So that's the plan. So, and I'm hoping if I get my head just right, I can see. All right, and then I'm going to do the same with trying to keep my head out of the camera, but I'm also trying to be able to see because the Versamark is clear. Looks like I got a little bit up here. I'm going to use a Post-it. That's what I should have done with the other one. See. All right. Did I still get it there? No, I'm okay. All right. So now I have to leave these strips on. Close up my Versamark because I don't want the heat to touch that. I want to wash these off real quick. And I'm going to apply my clear powder. So I had a lot of fun this last weekend. I went up to Seattle with my husband, and we went and we visited my daughter and her family. We spent 2 different nights looking at Christmas lights. We baked. We crafted together. We just did so much. I should really have another piece of paper under this. There we go. That's better. We just had so much fun. It was truly a great beginning of the Christmas season for us, for which I am very grateful. I can see the embossing powder on these. I want to tap. Well, maybe I'll do it this way. Okay, so now this is ready for me to use the heat, but I'm going to put my extra powder away because I don't want the heat to turn that hard onto my piercing mat. All right, so turning on the tool again. So we baked sugar cookies and ginger snaps. We visited 2 different sets of lights that my husband used to visit when he was a child, when he lived in the Seattle area. We live down in the Portland area now, the Portland, Vancouver, Hillsborough, or not Hillsborough, Beaverton area, greater Portland area. Anyway, so it was nice for him to be able to do that. We do normally go and visit Pike Place Market, but the weather was an absolute washout. It was a disaster. So we made the executive decision to not go and do that. It was a good time to be indoors, just spending time with each other. All right. So, not sure if you can see those clear snowflakes, but there they are. So now I'm going to come in with my blending brush and I'm going to apply 3 different colors of ink. I've got Balmy Blue, Pool Party, and Mint Macaron. Mint Macaron was just in case I felt like I needed to add something more. Okay, I've got too many supplies going on here. Here we are. So I'm going to start with Pool Party, and then I'm going to move on to Balmy Blue. And I'm just going to apply in, I'm trying very hard to stay within these 2 sets of lines within the tape. Because if I don't, I'll have to change my plan. I like Pool Party with the snowflakes a lot. I'm just going to try to connect a little bit of flow here. And then I'm going to bring in the Balmy Blue. And I can just wipe off. These don't hold that much ink, so I can just wipe this off on, there we go, on my chamois. And then I'll rub it on a piece of spare paper. I've got a spare piece of paper over here on the side that it's just a piece of copy paper, and this feels completely dry now. So now I'm moving over to the Balmy Blue. And again, I probably should have had a spare piece of paper under this. I like this Balmy Blue and the Pool Party together. Because the frosty colors are not just one color, right? They're multiple colors. And if I feel like I need it, I'll take the Mint Macaron and kind of blend both of these colors together. I don't know, I don't think I'm going to need it. I think I can just blend with the blue. Isn't that beautiful? So we stamped in Versamark. We put clear embossing powder on it and heated it. And now blending, using the blending brush to apply color over it. So now I like how that's turning out. Kind of feel like I need to, I'm being so careful with these two lines that okay. Not sure what happened here, but we can now take this off. Whoops. That was just my tape tearing, not my cardstock. Here we go. So what do you think of that? Is that pretty? So now we can take that same Much Gratitude and stamp that right down here. And do the same thing. We can either just do it flat, or we can put that clear embossing powder over the top, which is what I intend to do. I intend to put the clear embossing powder over the top. I am going to wipe this off because I feel a little bit of grit. There we go. All right. It is odd that I haven't seen a single comment yet, but I know everybody is so busy. It says I'm live, so I'm going with it. So we are going to bring in this piece of paper, and I'm going to use the Much Gratitude again, putting my Stamparatus plate back in its place. And then I'm going to put the Much Gratitude. I could center it. I'm going to put it off to one side a little bit. And you could put it on the top. I made room to put it on the bottom. And I kind of like that location. Use my magnets to hold my paper in place. Come down, pick that up with my plate. I'm going to, let's see, this is what yeah, I'm going to go ahead and go with the Balmy Blue. I see that I made a little halo of ink around this edge here, and I don't want to take a chance of it shouldn't with the Stamparatus, but I still don't want to take a chance. So I'm just going in and wiping off that edge. And I'm going to go ahead and apply ink again in case I hit. Actually, I can do it again if I need to. If I see that I accidentally removed some ink, I can. That looks beautiful. Shall I make it darker? Boy, I'm tempted to not add the clear because that looks really pretty. I am though. I will do exactly what I told you I was going to do. So I'm just applying a little bit more color. Yep, that's lovely. Now I'm going to clean off my stamp and apply Versamark on it. So that's how you get the clear right on top of exactly where you already stamped, was use the Stamparatus. It's an awesome tool. So now I can pull this out, being very careful to not touch that, setting hoping to, there we go, set this aside. Looks like I bent my paper just slightly, but that won't show in a couple of minutes. Going to grab my spare piece of paper and my clear embossing powder. Now I see a couple of these snowflakes are not perfect, and I'm kind of okay with it because they're not perfect in winter either, are they? They blow, they hit trees, they hit grass, they land in the water, they get blown to and fro, putting my powder back in. So back to us going to Seattle, that was just a wonderful trip. It really filled my heart. Had not been in my daughter's home in 23 months because of the pandemic. Us all doing our part. Turning on the heat tool. But we've all been vaccinated, and we were all so grateful to be able to spend time together this weekend. I bought a Christmas book, and we took turns reading from it to each other. There we go. That is ready. So now we can come back to the front of our card and decide what we want to do. We can either adhere it flat down or we can put it on dimensionals. I'm going to put it on dimensionals. But this would be when I would need to decide if I was going to apply a ribbon somewhere or something like that. I actually think on this one I'm not, and on the next one I will. Before I attach this, I need to decide what I'm going to do to the inside, if anything. I could apply a couple of stamped off snowflakes in the corner. I think that's what I'm going to do. But I will practice them on a spare piece of paper first. Make sure they're what I was expecting. So I think I'll go pool party. And so this would be stamp one and then stamp off. Ooh, stamp off's pretty light, but you know what? That actually might work well. I could go with the full color. This will handle the full color. And then the balmy blue, that's single stamp. I think I'm going to go full color with both. Okay, I'm glad I tested. So again, we've used the thick cardstock, and we're applying this, we're going to apply this decorative front. So I am going to apply, I think I did this one in Pool Party. I'm going to come up just a little bit. And this one in Balmy Blue. And I think I'm going to apply one more up here. Just like that. Oh, did I just do it in the other color? Okay. Well, that I don't recommend mixing up your colors of ink. So that was a mistake on my part. Thankfully, I went from a light to a dark. I just washed this one off so that I wouldn't make the same mistake. There we go. That's plenty, and that still leaves room for you to write a note. And this ink will dry light enough that you can write over the top of it. And I know that because I just did that with my Christmas cards. Closing these back up for a couple minutes. I'm going to wipe off those two stamps. It's really unusual for there to be no comments yet. But it still says live, so I'm going with it. Now I am going to use some dimensionals to apply this to the front. Now, if you were with me last week, I'm going to sit down for this. If you were with me last week, you know that I mentioned that I was out of the large dimensionals, and I still am. They haven't arrived yet. So I am using multiples of the minis because I'm going to be mailing this, unless I'm lucky enough to be handing it to a neighbor or something like that. But my original intention is to be mailing it. One more set over here. And we're going to make that work. So I'm gluten-free. I'm actually celiac, and I can't have dairy either. So we made regular sugar cookies and with dairy-free butter, because my granddaughter's dad is also dairy-free. And they turned out great. And then we made another batch that was gluten-free and dairy-free, and they turned out phenomenal, like the best ones ever. And all I did was switch out the flour. I think I had to add like a half a teaspoon more of milk. I think that's the only real difference that I had to do. And I was totally experimenting. I wasn't going and looking for a gluten-free, dairy-free recipe. I was trying to be easy peasy. All right. Make sure my card's opening the right way. I've taken the backs off of all of my dimensionals. And there we go. There is card number 2. So the first one was basic. Second one was a couple of steps up. I could have done all of this on a flat layer as well, but, well, if you've been watching me, you know I like layers. So that's what I did. And now I'm going to do another one, and it's going to have more layers. So I'll set these right over here. I'm actually done with the much gratitude, and the next one is going to say sending love. So I'll set that out here. Clean up just a little bit of this mess. I don't want to get rid of this because I ended up using that while I was stamping last time. So this time I'm going to do another card in the same direction. It's going to be a side fold. Hello, Karen. It's going to be a side fold just like this. I can tell that my score line was slightly off, so I'm going to adjust. Actually, it looks like this piece of paper is warped. I'm going to switch. I have extras cut. There we are. So sometimes your score gets off because the paper was actually longer or shorter, but usually longer than the 11-inch. And so sometimes that's what creates the reason for your score line to be off. And I didn't double check. There we go. So, ooh, this one's got just a little bit of ink on it. I don't like that. So we're going to go back to this one. I'm not sure where that, I bet the ink picked up right here. Remember I was using this extra piece of paper and I didn't move it over at that one point when I was working on this card. All right, actually I can just flip that over. That's probably the best thing to do. So I'm not sure how this paper got so warped, but I will use my bone folder to smooth all that out. And then set my score line exactly where it needs to be. Sometimes your paper can get ruffled like that if you're at the end of a blade, at the end of the use of the blade. And it could be. I'm trying to remember when I replaced that last. It may have been the end of November. And I cut a lot of cardstock. Lots and lots and lots. Okay, so now we have our card base, just like we did with these two. But on this one, we are going to use a slightly smaller piece of white. It's going to be 5 by 3 3/4, so it's a 1/2 inch smaller in each direction than the card base. And then depending on which color comes out predominant will depend on if I pick Pool Party or Balmy Blue to put behind it to mount on the front of this card. All right, so here we go. We're going to do very much the same thing, except I'm going to switch up the lines a little bit, and we're going to use a different sentiment. And I hope you see how fast this is going. Oh, haha. I didn't need 2 pieces, but that's okay. So I'm going to make this a little bit more varied than the last one was. A little bit more stormy looking, right? We've got these snowflakes swirling about. I'm going to place this like such. And I might even ink. No, I'm not going to ink it. I could. About like such. And then this other piece, I don't want it to look like I came straight down, right? So I want to move it around a bit. And I want to be sure that I leave space for my Sending Love stamp. So I'm going to put that right down here. So, I might just tear a little bit of this off and change the look of it. So it looks a little too matchy-matchy. So it was a lot of fun seeing my granddaughter and my daughter and son-in-law. And then John and I were surprised to come home and see that it had snowed. We did not know that before we hit the road. We didn't see any snow on the way home. Okay, so now within these boundaries here is where we are going to, I'm going to stamp the snowflakes again in the Versamark and use the clear embossing powder. But last time I ended up trying to hold this up against that tape, and I'm just going to, since I've already torn off some extra tape, I'm just going to go ahead and protect myself and just cover up that extra area. Again, this is the Post-it tape that is amazing. Here we go. Now I can stamp to my heart's content, and I'm not going to make any mess. So I'm going to use the Versamark. I've already cleaned off my stamps from working on this card. And now this time, I think I was a little too matchy-matchy on, let's get this back into the frame, on this card. I've got, they're too lined up. So I'm going to, even though I used 2 different stamps, so I'm going to be bold and do one right in the center. And then I have to bend down to make sure that I can see what I'm working on here. Another up here. And maybe those will be the only 2 big ones I do, and then I'll do 3 small. Whoops. And I will try to lift this up so that you can see what I'm working on, or what I've done before I put the powder on. Because I know you cannot see it from that distance. And I'm going to actually stamp off the corner over here. And I'm going to do it over here too. All right. So I'm bringing this up, and I'm not sure that you'll be able to see that, but I have stamped, I think you can probably see it more on the tape than you can on the card, but I've stamped those snowflakes in the Versamark ink which I'm now going to close up. I'm going to wipe off my stamps real quick. That Versamark ink it's great, but it does get a little sticky. Then I'm going to bring over this extra piece of paper. And pour the clear embossing powder on it. So it looks like a white powder, but it will heat emboss as clear. I'm being generous because none will go to waste. None will go to waste. So I'm tapping it to kind of consolidate it and shift it around. Now I'm just tapping it real hard to get any excess off. I'm going to pour my extra embossing powder back into my container. I think one of the bigger takeaways from this weekend, even though we had an absolute blast with my daughter and her husband and my granddaughter, was that because nobody's wanting to accidentally drink out of anybody else's glass or something. A couple of times I lost my glass when I really needed a drink of water. And I ended up not drinking enough fluid and I actually got dehydrated. So that's tomorrow I'm doing another baking session with another set of grandchildren and I will be taking my own water bottle so that it's always clearly marked. I can tell. Everybody's just being so extra careful right now, which we need to do. We all took rapid COVID tests prior to getting together. It's not a foolproof way of handling things, but we feel like at least we made an effort. So I'm heat embossing clear on white. So they're clear snowflakes on white. And then I'm going to use blending brushes to put in the color. And these will suddenly become white snowflakes. All right. That is done. And I'm going to hold this up and to see if maybe you can see. Can you see those snowflakes just a little bit? It gets really hard white with bright lights. I can see them on my screen, so I think maybe you can see them too. And I'm going to push that down. Okay, so I'm going to do exactly like I did last time. I'm going to start with Pool Party and then come in with the Balmy Blue. So I'm using the Stampin blending brushes, which I love and use all the time. And let's see if I can be a little bit more clean this time here. So I'm using Pool Party first. Look at those snowflakes emerge. And because I've taped off the rest of the front of the card, I'm not going to make a mess. Look at those snowflakes popping up. Isn't that beautiful? So now I'm going to come in with the Balmy Blue. And again, I'm going to do exactly like I did last time, and I'm going to wipe my brush off on my chamois, and then I'm going to wipe it off on a spare piece of paper. And there's no color coming off, and I'm holding it like this and it's completely dry. So I'm not going to transfer any color from one pad to the other, but I did, you notice I did start with the lighter color and I'm going to the darker color in case I were to make a cleanly or a mistake with the cleanliness of the brush. And now I'm going to come in and I'm going to blend the blue and the Balmy Blue and the Pool Party together. I'm going to fill in those spaces first. Look at those snowflakes pop. Do you like that? I hope you do. I hope you do. Oops, that was pool party. So I'm gonna come over and I'm gonna wipe that. Oh, I didn't put hardly any on there anyway, okay. I went over and I used a spare piece of paper to get any excess off. So now I've basically got my color applied, but there's a few places that are a little bit blotchy, so I'm going to come in and keep applying color until I feel like they're more blended and less blotchy. Do you like that pool party and that balmy blue together? So I've got a few different embellishments that we can use to finish off this card, because this one is going to get a ribbon and or some adhesive back sequins. All right, so we have now created the focal point for the front of our card. And I'm just peeling off that Post-it tape. How pretty is that? Yeah. So now we're going to add, just like we did here, we're going to add our sentiment. This time we're going to use Sending Love instead of using the Much Gratitude. It will sit something like this, and because these are heat embossed and they're raised and shiny, I want this to do the same. So again, just like this one, I'm going to stamp in color, and then I'm going to stamp in Versamark and put the heat embossing powder on it. So setting these aside, and can you see how much, see this one's slightly darker than this one because this one's had a bit of a chance to dry. Oh, balmy blue is what I was going to use first. So we'll set this back aside, that away. Get all my little spare bits and pieces out of the way. Bring back in the Stamparatus. That's how we're going to align stamping in the same location twice. Positioning, you can position this anywhere and use the magnets. I'm just making sure that it's nice and squared up by using the corner. We listened to Christmas music, we baked cookies, we went and saw lights, and then came home to snow. Does it get any more Christmas than that? Well, tomorrow I'll be with 2 more grandchildren. Then later this week I will see another. There will only be 1 out of 5 grandkids that I won't see this holiday season. I think she will receive her package from me today. So I'm using the Stamparatus plate to pick this up, and when I go back and stamp, it's going to stamp exactly where I need it to. So the first thing I'm going to do is apply my balmy blue ink. So you may remember on these other 2 cards, I ended up applying it twice because it was a little light. It's just a little bit light. And I see that I ended up with a little halo right there of ink. I have a eraser that will help me to take that off, but because that's there, I am going to go ahead and remove the ink from this stamp right now. I'm going to re-ink it. I'm going to try to be real careful and mindful of those halos. Yeah, see, I can tell I've already got a halo on this again. And what I really should have is I should have an ink pad under here. There we go. That makes it a little more flat. Let's see, I'm checking in my screen. Yes, you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just coming down and just kissing that ink right on that raised area. Now see, look, I hit that halo again. What's making this a little bit more difficult is, see these tails on this sentiment? It is creating a pretty easy space for that ink to hit. So we're going to give it a second layer of color. See, that just made it pop just a little bit. I'm going to clean off this stamp again because next I'll be applying Versamark. But before I apply the Versamark, I want to come in and see if I can remove, I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to raise it up. See, there's just a little halo mark right here. That's what I'm fussing about. I'm going to close up my balmy blue. And I'm going to come in with my, this is a sand eraser, much like if you ever used a manual typewriter. We used to use these to fix our typing mistakes. Clean up our presentation just slightly. And so this is really handy to have in your craft stash. There's a couple things you can do with it. You can use it to remove a fuzzy edge off of your paper. You can use it to remove little marks like this. I'm not going to be able to get it 100%, but I'm getting it pretty well. I might be able to hide it with one of my embellishments if I don't get it all the way off. I'm being careful not to put a hole in my paper or to make it too braided. Okay, that's as far as I'm going to go with it. So next I'm going to apply my Versamark right over the top so that I can add clear embossing powder on top of this colored ink. And for some reason, I'm not getting a halo. Oh, I think I missed part of. All right. Again, clean off the stamp. And now we're going to use the clear embossing powder again. And as promised, this particular card is going to be stepped up a couple of layers. Clear embossing powder. So again, a few weeks ago, we made treat bags. Last week we made gift card holders. We've been making Christmas cards for weeks. And this just kind of finishes up the season. This is sending the thank you card afterwards. Somebody has been so sweet and so kind. Oh, you know what? Let's see, I'm gonna have to hit this kind of hard. This embossing powder is sticking to where I had that Post-it tape. So I actually have a solution for that. Some people use a paintbrush, which would work fine. There's a little clay tip on the end of the Pick Me tool. So this is a Pick Me tool. And on one end there's a point, and you can pull that out and turn it around, and there's a little spatula, which I've never figured out what to use it for, but I'm sure one of these days I'm going to learn and wish that I'd been using it for a lot longer. And then on the other end is this clay tip, which you've seen me use many times to apply embellishments to the front of a card. In this case, I'm going to use it to pick up what I see as excess powder. And it does a really nice job. I'm going to take off a tip, and you just turn it and it gives you a little bit more. It's a real slow prime, but it does work. So now I can come in with my thumb and remove some of that I just piled up with that tool. And then I'm going to remove a little bit from the top here. So what I should have done, this is just real life, right? What I should have done is I should have used my embossing buddy, especially after I used that Post-it tape. Now, we didn't run into this problem with the last card. Almost done. Just using that clay tip to get in there and move around some of that excess. All right. I do feel some more. This is all from that Post-it tape, which is really funny that it didn't do it on the last card. But okay, we're good now. I can move this out of the way. We're done using that sheet. I'm about to turn on the heat tool again. Do you like those snowflakes and how they've popped out? This is a color resist method. There we go, and we're just about, yep, our letters are all glossed up. Nice. Pretty? So now we have, this is our card base. I have, like I mentioned at the beginning, I wasn't sure which one I was going to want in the end, but I cut one of each of the Pool Party and the Balmy Blue so that I could test them out and see which one I liked better to create a mat. So that's the Pool Party, which is absolutely lovely. And then here is the Balmy Blue, which is equally pretty. I think, let's see, so the 3 ribbons that I picked out, just not sure what I was going to want to do, I picked out this silver, I picked out this Pool Party, and I picked out this white organdy glitter. The glitter's not doing it for me, so I'm going to pull that away. Again, all of these are current. They are all available at this time. I was very careful to make sure that I wasn't demonstrating anything that wasn't available. These are the artistically, what are they? Artistically, I'm trying to remember the name. The first name is Artistically, and then they are adhesive backed sequins. So these look good with the blue. And they look good with the green. I think I'm going to go with the blue. I thought I was going to go with the green, but I think the blue looks just a little richer. So I'm going to go with that. In these sequins, there's four different colors, and I just am using the blue for this particular project. Okay, so then I need to decide, before I assemble all of this, do I want something like this sparkle ribbon going across the mat before I apply? That's too much. Okay, so I've just eliminated this ribbon. That takes me down to the Pool Party ribbon, which I don't see myself using on the blue. Do I even need a ribbon? Maybe I don't need a ribbon. Maybe I just need the sequins. That's what I'll do. I'm just going to go with sequins. It's still a very stepped up card compared to the first two, which I will pull forward in just a minute. All right. So with this card, we're going to add a layer to the inside as well, because this is a stepped up version. And here is the layer that we're going to put on the inside. So we're going to emulate a little bit of this coloring. So in this card, I stamped some snowflakes. In this card we left blank. This was just very, very, very simple. This one I am going to, can you tell I'm making this up on the fly? How about if we, let's see, better start with the lighter color like I told you from the beginning. So we can just come in and create a couple of blended corners, which is not rocking my world. That's looking really dark. I don't like that. I'm going to wash off my brush, dry it off on a spare piece of paper, which I threw away, pulling it back out. Oh, that's why I didn't like it, is because there was a fair amount of ink on there from before, so I must not have washed it after the last time Now it's nice and dry. You can see no color left on my hand. I'm going to flip this card over, piece of paper over, and I'm going to try again. So I'm using Pool Party, and I'm just going to come in lightly. Not a big fan of that edge that it's leaving. I'm not sure why it's doing that. But I'm going to go ahead and put it over here. We know it's going to dry lighter. I'm going to, what was I just using? I wasn't using Pool Party, I was using Mint Macaron, which I remember at the beginning I mentioned that I brought that just in case I needed it for a filler. I'm going to close that. I'm going to set it off to one side. No wonder it was showing up so dark. Let me get another piece of cardstock. This one's a little smaller, but we're going to make it work. We've been going with the flow from the beginning, right? Now definitely wash off that brush again. As soon as I didn't use it in the beginning, I should have moved it off to one side. I'm just using this card to double check that I've got it dry. See, it's not dry. There we go, I'm getting better. That Mint Macaron must have been really juicy too, because the other two, there we go. I'm good now. The other two colors weren't leaving that kind of, needing that kind of fixing. There we go. That's more like what we've been using. Holy man, that was confusing. I'm so confused. Let's see, am I still in frame? I think I am. All right, and I'm gonna give that a wipe down and dry it off and switch over to the balmy blue and just kind of bring in a little bit of blue. So we have a green tip and a little bit of blue. And we certainly could have done clear snowflakes on the inside, but we didn't. Gonna fix this blend a little bit right here. All right, we'll do that on the inside. Set that off to one side. We can now build our exterior card. Okay, we are going to adhere. Actually, I'm gonna wipe the front of this off because I've got a lot of grit from the powders. There we go. I am going to adhere this focal point to this mat, and I'm going to use my green glue to do that. Do you have any fun plans for your week this week? We, like I said, we made that short trip to Seattle, and Now my back can heal for, oh man, I don't think we have another get together until the 29th. Or no, I'm baking with 2 of the grandkids and one of my daughters tomorrow. And then we don't have anything until the 29th. So this back situation I've been dealing with, I have an opportunity to rest pretty well in between each event. It's hard during the holidays. See how pretty this is turning out? I love how it's turning out. And again, my big dimensionals are en route, but I'm out. I have black, which would show on this card. So I'm not going to use them on this card. So I'm having to use lots and lots of the minis, which is sad, but I have them. Yeah, my granddaughter, every time she decorated a cookie, if it was different decoration than the one that she had done before, so say a candy cane cookie instead of a snowman cookie, every single one of those she she had him taste test. He ended up taking like a 2.5-hour nap from the sugar spike and drop. But he was a good sport. Take another drink of water myself. It's really rainy and cold here in the Pacific Northwest. My friends over in Tri-Cities evidently got snow yesterday. I believe their temperatures are lower than ours. Some people use their Take My Pick tool, the sharp end, and they just pop all these out. And I haven't figured out the rhythm to make that work. But I've seen people do it, and it looks impressive. I love days like today. I've got a beef roast in the crock pot. I love a comfy, cozy day knowing that when my sweetheart gets home, there's a meal ready, and I've still been busy, but not overdone it. Let's see, here we go. So I've just centered this from top to bottom and side to side, like such. On the inside, I'm going to just adhere this piece. You could, if you wanted, I didn't cut one, but if you wanted, you could mat your inner piece and put it in here as well, and that's actually would look much nicer. Let's see if I've got a piece close enough. I do. See, I found a piece. I have a handy dandy scrap bin over here, so I will cut this down to 4 by 5 1/4. And then this will, yeah, see, my blade is getting a little dull. I will mat that just like such. This one's been more of design as I go, hasn't it? I knew what I wanted to show you. Next week, you will start seeing samples from the new mini catalog, of which I have been making feverishly. So we could do a proper catalog launch. Details to come on my Facebook page. Whoops. If you would like a catalog, please do, and you don't already have a demonstrator, please do reach out. I can work with anybody that's in the United States. I do have some followers from Australia and the United Kingdom, which is pretty fun for me. My previous job, I worked in other regions of the world, and it's so fun for me that I get to still interact with other people from around the globe, even though I am changing directions. So I used to be in the apparel industry, or I still am. I'm not gone yet. I have 3 months left. There we go. So there's our front, there's our inner, and now let's throw some of those sequins on there. Now I was using this to pick up all of that powder, so I'm going to pull that. You just pull it off, pinch it off, just give it a little squeeze while that's squeezing back out, because it's real slow feed. Close up my inks. And let's throw a few of these on here. So I've used up most of the smaller ones, so I'm going to use bigger. And I could put some, right, oh yeah, I like that on the snowflakes. So there's some on the 2 smaller snowflakes. Now I did have this little, you really can't even see it, but there is a little halo here that I would like to hide, but I think these sequins are too big to do that with. I have one small one, whoops, one small one here. I think that looks funny. I think that looks like I tried to dot an E. Let's see, do I want to put one off? Or do I want to put one right in the middle? Normally they kind of make a triangle, but this whole card has been kind of flying by the seat of my pants, hasn't it? Let's see, I'm overthinking this just in case anybody didn't notice. I don't like that at all. And of course it's going to be the best adhering one ever. Okay, just for the sake of being done. And I actually like that. I think it looks good, but the rule of thumb is normally to make it more of a triangle. Okay, so here are the cards that we've made today. I showed you 3 different levels of card making. We started with just an absolute, I talked about using the thick cardstock. If you're going to make a simple folded piece of paper note card, to use the thick cardstock. And you can put something very clean and sweet on the front just like this, and you don't need anything else. Or I could have come in and I could have stamped a couple of snowflakes on here. Here I used the Color Resist, and I stamped in Versamark, put the clear heat embossed powder on it, heat embossed it, and then came in with blending brushes. Here I used the torn Post-it tape. Here I used I stamped with color, and then I came in with the Versamark over the top. And this one, I added the single layer to the front, and we just put some snowflakes on the inside, and clearly I went overboard. On this one, we stepped it up one more level. We matted this front layer, added some sequins, and we matted and added another layer to the inside of the card. So this card is considerably, if I turn it like this, maybe you can see all the layers compared to this card. Let's see if we can see that. Not really, kind of. Anyway, so there's our 3 different levels of cards, and that kind of wraps up my holiday series of cards. Thank you cards are never out of style. They are always in style and always in season. So you will see me show you more thank you cards for birthday gifts and such like that. But for this case, for whatever you had going on this holiday, hopefully this will cover your needs. Thank you for joining me today. As always, I love you all. I wish you all a very Merry Christmas. I will be here on Thursday night if somebody ends up joining for mystery stamping. But if not, have a very Merry Christmas. Please be safe, and big, big hugs.